Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn basics of .NET framework. So let's begin. Now the first question is, what is .NET? .NET is a software platform which simply allows you to develop different applications. .NET is said to be a language neutral. What I mean by that is you can use .NET to simply code into multiple languages. It supports multiple languages. .NET is not a language. Everyone needs to be careful here. .NET is not a language. .NET is only a platform which allows you to code using multiple languages. Now, .NET is developed by Microsoft, so it supports multiple languages which are developed by Microsoft as well as some third-party languages about which we are going to learn later on. This environment, or let's say this .NET environment, works well with Microsoft products. Now Microsoft moved here, or let's say Microsoft shifted their strategy from client side development to the server side development. The big advantage of server side development is that it gives you the protection, it gives you different kinds of connection, it gives you different kinds of databases connections and different kinds of services so that you can easily integrate those services into your application. Now let's see how Microsoft, or let's say how .NET application works. As we can see in the diagram here, .NET application works on top of .NET framework, which is installed in operating system, or we can say any of the operating system which has a hardware. Just like when you talk about Java language, just like your Java requires JDK, which is installed in some operating system, .NET is similar to that only. Now let's say the framework. In the diagram you can see the framework, languages and tools supported by the .NET. Now this is the whole framework of .NET, where we can see on top layer there are different kinds of languages which are then compiled, or let's say compiled by a common language specification, which in turn supports different kinds of development, that is web services of .NET, web forms and Windows forms. You can also use data, that is your database connections, with XML classes. So we can use XML also, we can use different databases also. Those are supported in the framework. Now there is, after that we are having framework class library. Class library, as you all know, class library is the library which stores, or let's say a basic library, inbuilt basic library, which stores of different kinds of functions, different kinds of methods, different kinds of system calls. So all those basic things which you use in any of the development are supported, or we can say stored, in class library. And then there is common language runtime, which simply allows you to, well, let's say, which simply lets .NET understand which language you are using and what kinds of code you are running. Now all these can be supported in Visual Studio .NET. As you can see on the very right hand side, the Visual Studio .NET supports all these functions, that is, it supports all the framework of the .NET, and it is a software platform which allows you to code using the .NET framework. Alright everyone, let's move on to the next slide. .NET framework services. Now what kind of services .NET framework provides us? The very first is common language runtime, then there are Windows forms, then we are having the whole ASP.NET, which simply allows you to develop web applications using the web forms and different web services. Then we are having ADO.NET. ADO is nothing but a platform which allows you to communicate effortlessly with the databases. After that we are having Visual Studio .NET, again the software suite which allows you to do all these things, or let's say to develop a code using all these things. Then we are having common language runtime, that is also called as CLR. Now common language runtime has some rules to obey, or let's say some rules are stored in common language runtime, which should be obeyed by any of the languages that you are using with .NET framework. Now rules, some of the rules we are going to see, which are object declaration rules, creation rules, and how to use that object. Then there are data types, language libraries, error handling and exception handling, and then we are having interactive development IDE, that is nothing but interactive development environment. Now, as we were saying, some or let's say multiple languages are being supported in .NET. Now, some of the languages are provided by Microsoft only, and some of the third-party languages are also supported. What languages Microsoft developed are nothing but VB, Visual Basic. Then we are having C++, C Sharp, J Sharp, and JScript. Along with that, some other languages are also there. These are just the examples. Third-party languages such as we are having APL, COBOL, Pascal, Perl, Python, and Smalltalk. Along with that, some other languages are also there which are supported inside .NET framework. Then how the compilation of these languages done in the .NET. As you can see, we are having C sharp code here, F sharp code here, and Visual Basic code here. For all these different languages, we will be needing the compiler of these languages. So C sharp code can be compiled by C sharp languager, F sharp code to be compiled by F sharp language compiler, and Visual Basic code to be compiled by Visual Basic compiler. Now all these compilers compile the code, and this code will be sent to the common intermediate language, that is CIL, also called as IL, intermediate language code. Now intermediate language code is made by all these, we can say, the code which is getting sent by the compilers. Then this code will be sent to the CLR, Common Language Runtime. Now the work of Common Language Runtime is to compile all this code into the machine code that we also call as a bytecode. Once the machine code is generated, we can send this machine code, that is instruction set, to the hardware directly. Now what we are having, Windows Forms. Now what are Windows Forms? Simply used to develop Windows applications. Now Windows Forms are again some controls which we use while developing any .NET application. Now these controls are very intelligent, or let's say these controls supports licensing, simply to we can say develop or deploy the application. Then we are having the accessibility. We also have printing support, Unicode support, and UI inheritance. So these are nothing but all the Windows features we can use while developing any of the Windows application or Windows forms. All right, everyone. Then we are having the ASP.NET. Now ASP.NET is a service which simply allows you to develop any of the web application using the .NET language. All right. So .NET, if you take solely, it simply allows you to make any of the Windows application using any of the languages. But ASP.NET is an engine which allows you to develop web applications using any of the web, we can say, supported languages, and you can harness the power of web services. You can generate HTML pages, you can generate JavaScript, you can generate different kinds of CSS using the ASP.NET. All right, let's move on. Then we are having web forms. Now we have previously had Windows forms. Now we are having web forms. You all must be aware of Web 2.0. So Web 2.0 simply made a way to simply develop web forms, or let's say interactive web forms. What ASP.NET does, it simply uses this power of Web 2.0, and you can develop different kinds of web forms. Now web forms, when you are developing web forms, you can compile these web forms. When compilation is happening, Microsoft simply allows you to clean the code, so that you can, code cleaning is done by Microsoft only. You can compile and execute this code. You can handle errors you can handle exceptions. Microsoft also has inbuilt support for data validation and we can say data correction, as well as it provides you different kinds of web controls so that you can use all these web controls in a simple way and import your data, or we can say make your web application. Then we are having web services. Now web services supports, or let's say Microsoft's .NET's web services supports different kinds of web services when we will be needing when we are developing web application. Now web services like session tracking, web services like management of the session, like cookie tracking, management of the cookies. We also have the support for the XML in web services, so you can get the data from anywhere, get the data from SQL, also you can get the data from XML. You can create dynamic websites, you can create very high end professional websites. After that, the framework supports ADO.NET. Now ADO.NET is used simply to handle a data. Now data can be reside in databases or in the XML formats. We can use multiple databases, such as we can use Windows Microsoft Access database using ODBC JDBC bridge. We can also use XML databases. We can also use SQL databases. So basically data can be imported from multiple data sources at the same time while developing web application. It can use to connect to the database, it can use to disconnect the database. We can use a different languages with the databases. It has very great support for the XML. So what I mean by that is, if you are storing XML data, or let's say if you are working with the file of XMLs, Microsoft .NET framework can handle XML data very efficiently. All right. Now, so in the summary, what I will say is you can use .NET simply to develop, as we know, Windows application as well as web applications. Largely, .NET framework is used for development of the web application because it gives you different kinds of objects, different kinds of controls, simple in a simplified way. So you can simply drag and drop these controls, drag and drop these different kinds of forms onto your web application. All right. So the .NET supports multiple languages. It can be used for the security. It can be used for the security purposes. It can be used for for building a robust, we can say, applications. Thank you everyone. We will be back with the exciting new videos of .NET and .NET development. All right. Thank you.